Mark LaHaye is going to wrap up the evening with some examples of infill development projects he has worked on to implement the Woodland District Plan. Mark joined MJR Development in 2005 and brings over 25 years of real estate and development experience. After beginning his career in bank-owned real estate in 1986, Mark worked for the State of Washington Department of General Administration's Real Estate Services from 1991 through 2004. He held various positions within the department, including Manager of Real Estate Services, which delivers leasing and acquisition disposal services to all state agencies, boards, commissions, and educational institutions. Please welcome Mark LaHaye.
Wow, that was a great presentation, Ryan. Segway into, well, I got to pinch myself that get to work in that district, I'll tell you. First, a little bit about me. A couple of things. MJR Development is a Kirkland-based company, but I am a lifelong Thurston County resident, and so I hope that gives you a little perspective on how fun it must be for me to work on Lacey. Secondly, my office is in Kirkland, and this question comes up all the time, and the answer is I telecommute. I don't drive to Kirkland every day. So, and now I have this wonderful project to work on in Lacey as well. When I joined MJR about 10 years ago, committed to making real estate dreams and realities for our clients. I really liked that when I was hired there, and kind of our specialty is putting together talented teams for design and with vision, drive, and passion. They also have a really good set of values. I'm not going to go over all these, but my favorite is work hard, play hard, and have fun. But I can tell you lately, unlike about 3 or 4 years ago, I'm working a lot harder than playing harder, which is a really good sign in my business. Ryan already talked a lot about the attributes and amenities of this particular district. I start out with the park. Huntamer Park is just a wonderful place to start with in the district that we're in. Get you to move the slide forward. And just real quickly, I really don't need to review this, but it's a tremendous location within Lacey. It's got a park-like setting. It's got great access to I-5. It's a wonderful existing campus. Anybody who comes to the place for the first time looks around and says, wow, this is really nice here. This has a great feel. And the opportunities that we see for this particular place is some mixed use, some integrated plazas and courtyards, and of course we'd like to get some restaurants and residential and that type of thing going in the district. There's a lot of Class A office buildings there that are well planned in the campus, and some of them are tired right now. They're old governmental office buildings, but we were able to acquire them at a price that I think we can accomplish that. Next slide, please. A few more attributes. There's abundant parking, great, fantastic transit there. In terms of walkability, I see people walking there all the time at breaks and at lunches. It's really a nice place to walk. And then the updated Woodland District Plan, favorite thing for me, it provides a lot of flexibility and incremental change. Ryan actually showed my favorite slide, which is kind of the maximum amount of things that you can do in the district in terms of residential and other things. And I thought that was a fantastic thing that was developed in the plan. Next slide, please. Just real briefly, again, I'm reviewing right now. I know it's getting late, but our buildings are located right here. And this slide from transit sort of highlights the great transit that's available. You got St. Martin's, City Hall, lots of shopping to the west, and as far as I'm concerned, a fantastic place to be and developing and redeveloping buildings. Next slide, please. So I'm going to do something a little bit different than the previous speakers, and that is they dealt in districts, corridors, areas, this type of thing. As a developer, I typically drill right down to the property and focus on the property. I mean, that's basically what we have to do to try to make things happen. And so I just want to start out by showing you what we've acquired in the Woodland District. We started out by acquiring this building here, which is the 6th and Woodland building. And then we acquired 4 more properties, which is what we call Woodland Plaza over here, the Woodland Center, which used to be called the Quad Buildings, a property down here in the southwest corner, which has the Prudential building on it, but we think we want to do something else with the property. Also, what we call the College Street building, and then we came in later and bought these vacant parcels over here that are at 7th and College Street. And all told, about 330,000 square feet of floor area in 7 buildings at about 14 acres on 7 parcels. So we did that in the last 2 years, and we're pretty excited about working on it. Next slide, please. This was the first building that we purchased, and it's the 6th and Woodland building. This was kind of an experiment for us. This has an urban style development plan. It has a very small lot, very little parking on site. I think there's 43 parking stalls on site, plus another 40 in the first parking garage or underground parking garage ever built in Lacey. And we got this for a good price, but we had a premise about this particular property here, and that was it's a super high quality building. And we thought, even though it didn't have a lot of parking, if we got it at the right price, that we could attract tenants to this particular building. And we bought this about 2 years ago. I think it was June 2012. And so far it's working out. We started at 40% occupancy, and we're now at 80% occupancy. And we actually have tenants that are still interested. Now, I do need to tell you, next slide, please. This is the backside of the building. It's referred to as the clock tower building. There's also, as we were buying it, everyone had to tell us there's a Quasimodo tower up in the anyone want to go up and look at it, I'm happy to show it to you. But this is the parking lot for a 60,000 square foot building. The last tenant that we negotiated to put in there to get us to 80% did require us to add some parking to the building, and which is fine. We now have the property within the Woodland District to do that. But so the net of it is we're really thrilled to have this building, and our hypothesis is sort of working out on quality. People gravitate to quality. Next slide, please. Here's the site, 6th and Woodland site. As you can see, it has very little parking on site, and I think I talked mostly about that, so next slide. Okay, the next property I want to talk to you about is over here, what we call the Woodland Plaza. Next slide, please. And it's pretty close to 3 acres. There is a 72,000 square foot building there that's broken in basically into 2 buildings, a 3-story and a 4-story building. It's one of the oldest buildings in the Woodland District, but one of the things we discovered is we had a structural engineer going to look at the building, and it is really sound. It has no evidence of the Nisqually earthquake, so the building has really good bones, but all the systems, electrical, everything is very old. Next slide, please. And the other thing about it is it has this really cool atrium feature between the 2 buildings. And the problem with that feature is that it leaks. You can't heat or cool it. And it's very small. So when you walk in, although it looks really cool, when you're inside the building, there's hardly any hallway around the elevator core. And so we've decided to make some changes also to the exterior. Next slide, please. What we want to do is we're going to knock that down and replace it with this, and it's actually going to be a lot bigger floor plan. Next slide, please. And as you can see, we're going to add footage all the way to the edges of the building on 3 floors. Actually, yeah, 3 floors. So in terms of infill, this is going to add about 9,000 square feet to this building, and we think it'll make it a lot nicer building as well. So, and then I won't go into the details, but we plan on gutting this building and replacing all the systems, electrical, HVAC, and everything. Certainly it'd be a good governmental building. We also think it might be a good clinic building, and we have opportunity to actually expand the parking there if we had a kind of a larger medical clinic user who came in. So next slide, please. Okay, the next property I want to talk about, go backwards just for a second. is this centerpiece here, what used to be known as the quad buildings that we call the Woodland Center. What we're really focusing on this particular area here, because you come in from 6th Avenue this way, is creating a sense of place. One of the things that's lacking, I think, is the buildings haven't been updated in a lot of years. There's not entrances, kind of more modern landscaping, and in fact, some of the buildings, it's hard to tell where the entrance is to the building. So before we go forward, this is just a preliminary plan that we have, but we want to do some hardscaping here and put in a significant entrance element here. And then also at the other entrances, we want to put in some elements there. And back here, it doesn't show it here, we want to create kind of an outdoor cafe, people place back here. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Next slide, please. So this is the exterior of the buildings. Our architect calls this the layer cake look. And I kind of like it, but as you can see from right here, there's not much of an entrance here, so that's something that we want to improve. Next slide, please. So we've come up with some preliminary designs, and we're actually working on these now, but we want to update this entrance with this element here, and then put canopies on all the entrances, perhaps a monument sign. We're already in the process of updating the landscaping. And then I talked about the outdoor lounge and even possibly a sport court. This area in here used to be office. We've actually demoed that out, and we'd like to make that a general common area for people in the complex. And in terms of creating some creative ideas, it's really helped. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Next slide, please. So what's happened is, what we were thinking is we'd create this common lobby here, and we would have meeting rooms in here. Also, we were hoping to get a coffee cart and perhaps even a food van that would come in here and serve people. And when we interviewed landscape architects, they even came up with some better ideas, which they're working on now, which is to actually create an outdoor kind of cafe area out here. And I wish we were far enough along to show you some of their ideas, but they're fantastic in terms of a lot of color and shelter, water features, that type of thing. And what's happened as a result of that is we've actually had a restaurateur approach us. And they want to put a restaurant in here and then help with the planning of the cafe area here, and then actually manage this area kind of as a conference center. So just that one idea of putting in a common area here has generated all sorts of ideas. And what we're hoping to do is really create a cool people space back here that will attract people after 5. I mean, not just during business hours, but actually after 5. So we're really excited about that. Next slide, please. This shows you kind of just a preliminary design for the common area that we're working on, and here's a section of it as well. And we're kind of refining this right now. I don't think we'll have a coffee shop. This will probably be another large meeting area. So also, we want to put roll-up doors here that open up when it's nice out to the cafe area. Next slide, please. Okay, the next area I want to talk about is this area right here. Next slide. Right now, there's a building on this property called the Prudential property, and it's a 3-story, I think it's 33,000 square feet, and it's a water damage building, and it's really underutilized in terms of the size of the property. And what we're thinking we want to do is demolish that building and put up some apartments. And so we've done an initial study for the apartments, and this kind of dovetails into some of the incentives that people talked about. Right now, what we'd like to do is create I think it's a 4-story apartment building that has less than code parking, based on the fact that after 5, there's about 1,200 parking stalls that are empty And so if we move forward with this idea, we'll actually come to the city and ask them, we want to be higher, more dense, and have less parking on site than before. So this is one of our infill ideas that we have. Next slide, please. Okay, next property I'm going to talk about is the vacant land over here on College Street. Next slide, please. These two pieces of land total about, I think it's only about 1.3 acres, but they are located on College Street, and Ryan mentioned a really high car count there. So one of the things we thought might go here is a professional building or medical clinic, and so we came up with this particular study here. We'd also look at restaurant, might go there as well, or even fast food. But this particular infill here, we talk about challenges. These buildings are smaller, and so they don't have the economies of scale of larger buildings. Probably pretty expensive, and we'll have to. These will be tenant driven. We'll actually have to have a tenant come to us and actually design the building with them. But could be a very cool idea for this area. Next slide, please. And lastly, at the far southeast corner, we also acquired this, what we call a College Street building. It has Harborstone Credit Union in it, and we just put Dex 1 in here. It's about 26,000 square feet, and it's a wood frame 2-story building. We're pretty much going to leave it alone. Next slide, please. We are going to paint it. We don't like the paint job that's on it right now, but it's got great visibility on College Street, and so we think will be probably pretty easy to rent up over the next couple of years. So anyway, next slide. Okay, that's it. So we're very excited about the district, and really starting to get a lot of interest in the buildings, and just look forward to going forward and working on it. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mark. So we've heard everything from why we need to do infill to what are the tools to doing infill to seeing some actual planning that's been done in the area and some projects that are taking advantage of those tools. Please join me in an appreciation of our speakers. And also thanking our hosts, the City of Tumwater and Thurston Regional Planning Council, for this event today. And then finally, on behalf of Commerce Growth Management Services and the Planning Association of Washington, we hope this course was a useful one to you and that you travel safely home.